It is officially franchise tag deadline day throughout the NFL, which means we are talking plenty of Lamar Jackson on today's episode of Locked On Ravens. We'll talk about the major implications of giving Lamar Jackson a franchise tag. We'll talk exclusive tag, non-exclusive tag, dive into mock drafts, and so much more coming up next here on this episode of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into another episode of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I am your host, as always, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, and we are here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today, being here, making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, including in video form over on YouTube. And it is a Taco Tuesday, and a very special Taco Tuesday, March 7th. And that means it is the franchise tag deadline day, a day that has a lot of meaning to the Ravens. And we're going to finally, I feel like, get some answers. It might not be big answers, but it will be an answer about Lamar Jackson and his situation. Now, we'll talk about a lot today. We'll dive into what the implications could be of giving Lamar the non-exclusive franchise tag, giving him the exclusive franchise tag. If you're listening to this before a decision comes down on whether Lamar is franchised or not, we'll talk about all those situations and scenarios. But if you're tuning in after the fact, I'll still have breakdowns of, what I think of each of the situations, and I'll go through all of them so that there will be something of substance and dive into pros and cons of each. So we'll talk about the non-exclusive tag in the first segment. We'll move over to the exclusive tag in the second segment, and we'll also throw in some, what if they don't tag him at all? What if they somehow extend him before the deadline? All different types of situations here today on the show. Then in the final segment, we'll take a break from Lamar Jackson. I know it's been a lot talking about Lamar Jackson all this time. And we'll talk about some mock drafts we got from Twitter over the course of the past couple of days. So planning to talk about a big day for the Ravens. I'll probably go live on YouTube, breaking down whatever decision is made by the Ravens, whether it is franchise tag extension, maybe a trade happens, maybe nothing happens. I'll probably go live anywhere from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern time. I'll probably do a live stream just breaking down instant reaction. So be sure to stay tuned for that. But if you are hearing this in video form on YouTube, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're working towards 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you for tuning in and the support in video form. And thank you for the support in audio form as well. Again, we're available anywhere you get your podcast. So if you're listening to us driving to work or from work or wherever, however you're listening, thank you so much for tuning in. It's the same show, both audio and video. So if you want Daily Ravens content 5 days per week, Monday through Friday, we have it for you here. So let's now talk about Lamar Jackson, diving into a topic that we have talked about time and time again, but it feels different. Again, it's just all the national media has gotten a hold of it. There have been all these storylines, breaking news. It's not really breaking news. It's just the same thing spit out over and over again. Well, today there will be something. I don't know what it's going to be yet, because obviously I'm recording here on Monday night / Tuesday morning, but we have something to look forward to today in terms of what we could get as a resolution. So some stuff came out over the course of yesterday. On Monday, Ozzie Newsome, the executive vice president for the Ravens, obviously former GM, went on the Bernie Kosar show and ended up talking about the Lamar situation on there and said, today and up until 3:30 tomorrow, a lot of energy will be utilized in trying to get a deal done. And if not, we will put the franchise tag on him. So that's very definitive by Ozzie Newsome. But obviously then the conversation becomes, if there is the tag, is it exclusive or is it non-exclusive? Because you have to determine and figure out what you want to do and where you want to give leverage, where you don't, if you're the Ravens. And there are both pros and cons and either, implications or ramifications and benefits as well to having both these situations. So we'll start with the non-exclusive, and what that is obviously the non-exclusive tag is if the Ravens decide to put that on him, it is a 1-year, $32 million deal. So it's fully guaranteed. And that would allow teams to negotiate with Lamar, and then the Ravens, if Lamar and another team get a job done, so let's say the Falcons agree and they get the job done on a deal, and let's say it's 5 years, $250 fully guaranteed, then Lamar can go to the Ravens with that offer and say, hey, are you going to match this? And if not, I'm going to leave. And if Lamar leaves, the Ravens get 2 first-round picks. Now, there's a lot of debate as to whether the non-exclusive tag is the right call for the Ravens or the wrong call for the Ravens to make here. I think it's the riskier option in my opinion. Now you might be looking at the tag numbers and 32 non-exclusive and the exclusive tag is 45 million. And you're thinking, well, that's $13 million in difference. It's a pretty big amount. And I agree with you. But at the same time, there's a risk that a team does give Lamar the deal that he wants. And right now, obviously, the Ravens have not been willing to give the deal to Lamar, the deal Lamar wants. And then if that does happen, maybe Lamar does leave and you only get 2 first-round picks in that situation. Now, to me, and I think to a lot of people, Lamar is worth a lot more than 2 first-round picks in a normal trade. If Lamar were to leave for just 2 first-round picks, I feel like it would be very underwhelming, even if the Ravens got, let's say the 8th overall pick, maybe even the 2nd overall pick, plus another, the Houston 2024 first, that would also feel kind of underwhelming in terms of if you're the Ravens and what you're looking for out of a deal for a franchise quarterback in Lamar Jackson. 2 first-round picks would probably be a bit underwhelming. So regardless of that whole thing, we have to actually be realistic and look at some of the teams that actually might be a player for Lamar. Now, there were some rumblings yesterday that the Falcons aren't really an option for Lamar. There just hasn't been a lot there. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. We'll see. But you're looking at teams like Houston and Carolina and possibly the Jets. I know Las Vegas potentially, although I think that would be hard money-wise. But, regardless, you look at the teams yesterday like Seattle and New Orleans, who Seattle gave Geno Smith a huge extension. New Orleans signed Derek Carr to a massive deal. Those are 2 teams off the board. So maybe there are 4 or 5 teams that would be willing to kind of engage in a bidding war of sorts for Lamar. So if the Ravens are confident, and look, maybe giving him a non-exclusive tag just kind of speeds things up because we haven't really, it's felt like a slow moving process. Ian Rappaport, reported a couple of things throughout the day. And one of them was that there's just not a lot of engagement on Lamar Jackson's side. And however true that is, it seems like the Ravens have been kind of trying. And, John Harbaugh saying, we love Lamar, we want him here. Eric DeCosta, we love Lamar, we want him here. That's what we've been hearing from the organization, especially, in these public press conferences, at least as Lamar's teammates want him back. They want the deal to get done. But, we haven't heard a lot from Lamar's camp. I know part of that is probably the fact he does not have an agent, and it's Lamar and Eric DeCosta working together. Apparently, Eric DeCosta flew to Miami to work towards a deal with Lamar, but things just don't seem close right now, which feels like the franchise tag is going to be what ends up happening. And again, for those listening after it happens, I don't think it's necessarily a terrible thing, but the thing that, you're looking at either way with the exclusive or the non-exclusive tag is the fact that it's a big chunk of change. And the Ravens right now have about, depending on where you're looking, 25 to 27, maybe 28 million in cap space right now. You're going to have cap casualties. You're going to have to restructure deals, maybe extensions to push money down the line. How much of that do you need? Well, obviously, if it's a non-exclusive, you don't have to do as much of that if you don't want to. But either way, on a 1 year, that franchise tag is fully guaranteed. So you're going to have to make it. And the argument that people have also made about this whole thing is maybe this is what Lamar wants. Maybe Lamar, he's not getting the guaranteed deal he wants to the Ravens. If he wants to stay in Baltimore, but they're not willing to give him that deal, maybe he gets a couple of 1 year fully guaranteed deals for these next couple of years on the franchise tag, and then hits free agency again in 2025 during that offseason. And I'm sure the quarterback, by then, I'm sure there will be a couple more fully guaranteed contracts, just with the way the TV deals are going, with how close guys have gotten. Obviously, Deshaun Watson has kind of changed the landscape here. Jalen Hurts will have his deal. Joe Burrow will have his deal. Justin Herbert, a couple of these other star quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, right? Some of these guys will likely have their deals and pretty big, sizable ones at that. Others will be up for re-extensions or bigger contracts. So maybe that's just how Lamar wants to play this, where he's able to sign a franchise tag with the Ravens, play on a fully guaranteed deal, whether it is 32 or 45. He can kind of play the market a little bit, where if he does get a 5-250 fully guaranteed, maybe he takes it if he wants. But for the Ravens, either one. I mean, for Baltimore, there has to be some type of provision for them, I guess, because right now a fully guaranteed deal for them, if they give him, let's say, that 5-250, the ramifications of that for them is they're not going to be able to build a roster the full way they want to, because Lamar's rookie contract, that's the thing of the past now. But with a fully guaranteed contract, the Ravens, I've talked about this before, they love giving out those 3-year, $16 million deals and 4-year, $25 million deals for their second contract players that have played well for them, their draft picks. you're not going to be able to have as many of those. Whereas with a big long-term extension, you can maybe, depending on the guarantees, make that first year cap hit low, second year cap hit low, make it a backloaded deal, and work in guys to your roster. So for the non-exclusive tag, I've come around to the franchise tag a little more than I was. At first, I was like, this is disaster if it happens. There's no way this amounts to anything good for the Ravens. It's still definitely not ideal. Like the most ideal situation resolution for both sides is either an extension or a trade, in my opinion. I think the franchise tag just pushes stuff down the line. It makes it unflexible for the Ravens, and for Lamar Jackson, injury-wise, you're risking something. If something happens to you for the third straight season, then you really start to dabble in that. Can he really play a full 16-game season? Where I'm not putting injury prone on Lamar right now. 2 years, season-ending injuries, I get it, but I'm not doing that. A third season of him having something happen to him, then I think those cries would be a lot louder from a lot of people. So for the non-exclusive tag, for him to be able to shop around the market a little bit, see what he can get, who knows what the deal is with that. But there's another solution to this franchise tag-wise, and it is the exclusive tag. So coming up in our second segment, we'll be diving into what the exclusive tag could mean for Lamar Jackson, diving a bit into the implications, potential ramifications, benefits of that. So be sure to stay tuned. So let's dive into on Locked On Ravens. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. In the midway point of the NBA season is here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet it on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. And for me, big Denver Nuggets guy, the Nuggets pulling out a pretty gutsy win over the Raptors on Monday. They play the Bulls tomorrow. Jamal Murray going for the 3-point record all time for Denver Nuggets players. It's held by Will Barton right now. Jamal is 2 away from breaking it. So if you want to bet on Jamal's 3-pointers or points or rebounds or whatnot, you can do that and so many more exclusive bets like the 2x3, 2 3-pointers scored in the first 3 minutes. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss a chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets. You can go to FanDuel.com/lockdown. That's FanDuel.com/lockdown to learn more. Make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. We return here to our second segment of Locked On Ravens here on Franchise Tag Deadline Day. Kevin Ostreicher is still here with you. The anticipation is building for me, at least I know for those who are watching before the decision comes down on Lamar. I'm sure people are listening to this anticipated as well, kind of thinking what's going to happen. But for those who are listening after the fact, something's happened. So I'm hoping it's good for the Ravens' sake and obviously good for Lamar's sake as well. But obviously there has to be a balance here between what the team wants and what Lamar Jackson wants. It feels like there's been the pull from both sides on Lamar wanting the fully guaranteed deal and the Ravens not wanting to do that, not wanting to go that far. And so we talked about the non-exclusive tag in the first segment. Well, let's talk about the implications of the exclusive tag now in the second segment here. And for the exclusive tag, it's $45 million. Again, that is a 1-year fully guaranteed deal. Both franchise tags are fully guaranteed. And that would be where, look, if Lamar's looking for that $50 million fully guaranteed money per season, so we're throwing out the 5-year 250 again, fully guaranteed. A $45 million 1-year deal here for Lamar, that fully guaranteed deal. You're losing out on $5 million, yes, but it gives you the opportunity to, I mean, let's face it, Lamar's had these 2 season-ending injuries. I know he played like an MVP the first 3 weeks. He was my pick for MVP through those first 3 weeks, but his play kind of fell off over the course of the rest of the season before getting injured. His stock is not as high as it has been, and I think it can get. So if Lamar's thinking to himself, well, he can get a huge contract right now. I'm not saying that his value is so low he can't get a deal that he wants, or at least close to a deal that he wants. But I feel like for him, if he's thinking, yeah, money is the objective here. And look, for every player, I'm not gonna bag on a player for wanting what he wants. Some player, it's different priorities for different players. Some players want huge contracts. Some players want winning. And then Lamar wants to win too. He's a competitor. But for him, he wants to get paid what he deserves to get paid. And that's completely fair. I'm on his side with that. Lamar deserves a big contract. But if he wants that and the Ravens aren't there with that, but Lamar doesn't want to leave the organization, then I feel like the exclusive franchise tag, again, that gives the Ravens exclusive negotiating rights with Lamar. There's no going out negotiating with other teams. Then it becomes a whole thing of, well, if you go the 2 franchise tag route, if you're Lamar Jackson for these next 2 off seasons, $45 million on the exclusive tag. I'm sure that number goes up again next off season. You're getting essentially, it might not be exactly 2 years, $100 million fully guaranteed, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. And if you're able to stay healthy, if you're Lamar, if you're able to kind of bounce back a little bit, play a full 16 games or now 17 game season, each of these next two seasons, you lead the Ravens to the playoffs, you get past, you win a Super Bowl, let's say even you get to the AFC Championship, something like that, progression within the career. Lamar keeps earning and earning and earning. Plus, I think he's also earning just in the pure fact that the quarterback market is going to continue to go up. I mean, the Deshaun Watson deal sets some sort of precedent. If other guys start getting those fully guaranteed deals, I think it'll probably happen with one of these guys, potentially like a Jalen Hurts or a Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence. One of these guys will probably get either very close to or a fully guaranteed contract by their respective franchise or somebody else maybe. So if that happens and Lamar does want to go $45 million on the exclusive tag for this offseason and then get it again next offseason, I think the precedent will be set for him and it will be easier for him to negotiate a long-term deal if he wants it fully guaranteed, because potentially that barrier would already be broken where it's not just Deshaun Watson, it's also others. So that could be where Lamar's mindset is at. And I think that people were talking about that even before this offseason. But again, to me, if you have a $45 million cap charge for Lamar in 2023, it severely, it's even 32 with the non-exclusive, it severely impacts and somewhat hinders your ability to do things. And obviously, again, this salary cap picture we have for the Ravens, even if Lamar gets either non-exclusive or exclusive franchise tagged, is not the end picture. As I mentioned, restructures, extensions, cuts, those things will come in the coming weeks and, before free agency. But it just, to me, feels like for the Ravens' benefit, at least, if anything for the Ravens' benefit, getting Lamar either under contract or traded gives them a path. It gives them an avenue. A franchise tag, it kind of pushes the issue down the line a little bit. Where, look, Lamar's your quarterback, and to me, I think that's the most realistic shot to give the Ravens a chance to win. Like, Lamar's your most realistic shot to win right now. If you're Baltimore, he's a franchise guy. But again, if the Ravens next offseason decide that Lamar isn't their guy, which I don't really think would happen, maybe something happens if Lamar doesn't want to stay, it's just pushing the issue and you're not able to fully build your roster the way you want to, because as we sit here and we'll go over mock drafts in the third segment, we talk about team needs, who they should sign, who they should trade for, who they should draft. So much is hinging on Lamar Jackson. So while a franchise tag, whether it is exclusive or non-exclusive, look, it gives us clarity, right? We're sitting here thinking, well, now there is some sort of path. Other doors open here. Other dominoes can fall because one, no matter how small it is, one domino did fall. There was a franchise tag or there was an extension, or there was a trade. I think people are just looking for something to happen. This day will give us something, but then it's what happens, whether it's exclusive or non-exclusive, what the next move for the Ravens is, what the next move for Lamar Jackson is. Because if Lamar gets the exclusive tag, it will make it harder for the Ravens to bring guys in this offseason, and even with the non-exclusive too, obviously that's $13 million less than the exclusive tag, but there's just so much that's, I guess, riding on this decision, because if we're still sitting here talking about this situation, and obviously the deadline for the tag to be signed is coming up as well, if Lamar does get tagged. But, if we're still talking about this in April, free agency, the big waves of it have already come and gone. And you still don't know, if you're Baltimore, what you're doing with Lamar. The guys you might want are off the market. Like, let's say this happened with the Ravens last offseason. The Ravens wouldn't have gotten Marcus Williams. They probably wouldn't have gotten Morgan Moses. Those guys would have been long, long, long gone by the time the actual deadline for signing the tag rolled around. So you have to be able to get some type of resolution done, because you just can't let it go further and further and further, because right now it just feels like the Ravens' hands are tied behind their back. And I know that John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta talked about, well, we have 5, 6, multiple contingency plans for if Lamar stays and obviously if Lamar goes. But things happen, right? Free agency happens, and you might think a guy that's going to get X deal gets Y deal. And it's like different numbers pop up and it happens fast and the markets move quickly. So my concern is, if there isn't a resolution with this, just something. If Lamar signs the tag and he's on the exclusive tag for, the 2023 season, that's what it is. At least that path is what's been established, and you can take that path and work with it, and not have to say, well, we also have to take into account the extension path and the trade path and walking for nothing path. walking for nothing. Not going to happen. But regardless, there are just so many things that have to be taken into account. So for me, I don't think the franchise tag is the end of the world for Lamar Jackson. I think it does hinder Baltimore's ability to do things, and it will cause them to have to get rid of some talent, especially if Lamar is playing on the exclusive tag. But you can maneuver around the cap, and we'll see what happens over the course of today. And I'm excited to talk about it later today when we go live, and obviously we'll talk about it throughout the rest of the week here on the show as well. But when you're talking exclusive and non-exclusive, there are ramifications. There are benefits to both of them. And we'll see. I think the non-exclusive tag is the riskier option, but the exclusive tag does give the Ravens that exclusive negotiating right. And compared to 45 million exclusive, 32 million non-exclusive, two big numbers either way. No matter how you slice it, those are two very big numbers, but fully guaranteed. And as we know, that's what Lamar Jackson's looking at. So we'll see what happens with that. But coming up, we'll take a break from the Lamar Jackson talk. We'll dive into some mock drafts from Twitter, so be sure to stay tuned. So lots to dive into on the show. We return here. It's our final segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Ostreicher still here with you again. Thank you so much for tuning in with us, making us your first listen here on Locked On Ravens each and every day. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow along in audio form as well. And now we're going to be diving into some mock drafts from Twitter here. Again, we got a ton of response here on the mock draft. I'm really excited to continue diving into these. And we'll start off with a big trade one here from Surviving a Ravens offseason. I'm with you on that one. 22, we have Zay Flowers, Boston College wide receiver. Then the Ravens trade Chuck Clark in the 86th pick for the 48th pick in the 194th selection. Then Garrett Williams, the corner from Syracuse, is the pick. Then Baltimore ends up trading Patrick Ricard for the 82nd pick. Ooh, third round value for a fullback. All right, I'll take that. Carl Brooks, the Bowling Green Edge, is at 82. Jacorian Bennett, the Maryland corners, at 125. Then the Ravens trade Michael Pierce for 128. Dorian Williams, the Tulane linebackers, the pick there. Chandler Zavala, the North Carolina State guard, is at number 159. Eric Gray, the running back from Oklahoma, is a 171, and how Baltimore got 171 if they traded James Prochet for that selection. Then you have trading the third, the Florida safety at 194, and Ronnie Bell, the Michigan wide receiver, at 200. So, I mean, this is the big trade-heavy mock draft here. Chuck Clark feels like he is on the way out in Baltimore. I mean, this will be really good value, upgrading that third to a second. And then, I mean, the Patrick Ricard trade kind of saves this draft here. Third round value for a fullback. I don't think the Ravens are getting that, but hey, look, if the mock draft simulator gives it to you, you take it. You get a wide receiver and then a corner. You get an edge in there as well, another corner. So 3 defensive backs also with the safety and trading. 2 wideouts, start with a wideout, end with a wideout here, a guard for potentially Ben Powers and that departure, a running back and Eric Gray for, I think, again, running back is a sneaky need for me this offseason for Baltimore. So I like the Flowers and Williams combination. I think Williams is actually one of those guys who is like a late first. He's more so like a mid-second guy, I think, maybe an early second guy. So I like the value here from Surviving a Ravens offseason. And hey, look, I'll be surviving it right alongside with you. So good job on this mock draft here. Then Bruce D. Anderson, our next mock draft here, says it made a couple trades. So first, a Lamar Jackson trade to the Texans for the 2nd overall pick, the 12th overall pick, a round 2 in 2024, and a round 3 in 2024. Then the Ravens trade the 2nd overall pick, so wheeling and dealing, to the Lions for the 6th overall pick, the 18th overall pick, and the 48th overall pick. So essentially Baltimore gets 3 first-round picks in this draft, and obviously they have their own too. So 4 firsts. And with the 6th overall pick, Anthony Richardson, the Florida quarterback, is the pick. Number 12, Jackson Smith and Jigba, the Ohio State wide receiver, is the selection. Number 18, Joey Porter Jr., the Penn State corner, is the pick. Zay Flowers, Boston College wide receiver, at 22. Number 48, Steve Avila, the TCU guard, at 48. Eli Ricks, the Alabama corner, is at 86. Mauro Jomo, the Texas defensive lineman, at 125. Dwayne McBride, UAB running back, at 159. And Stenson Bennett, there he is, Georgia quarterback, at 200. The Todd Monken special. That's what I always call it. So two quarterbacks for the Ravens, 2 rookies, and Anthony Richardson and Stenson Bennett. I mean, look, this is pretty much resetting the offense for the most part. You got Anthony Richardson and 2 really good wide receiver prospects in Smith and Jigba and Zay Flowers. You can put those guys next to Rashad Bateman and Devin Duvernay. I still would like a veteran in that room. Maybe a DJ Chark is that option for you. But look, that's a jam-packed in a good way wide receiver room. Joey Porter Jr. is one of my favorite corners in this class. I would love if Baltimore were able to get their hands on him. Eli Rick's a very underrated guy. I could see him kind of catapulting up into that early, mid, maybe just a full second-round guy, late second-round guy. Then you have the running back, sneaky knee, defensive line. With the Ravens having some guys here, Calais Campbell, probably his last season, Michael Pierce getting up there, Brent Urban on a one-year deal, plus Justin Madubuike and Broderick Washington in the last year of their contract. So I would not be shocked if the Ravens take a defensive lineman. I mean, I like this. I like this. If the Ravens do decide to move on, you get 4 firsts in this round draft, replenish your talent pool, get guys on very cheap rookie contracts, and it gives you roster flexibility. So solid. I'd say that's a solid overall haul there for the Ravens. Then we'll get into one here from Nicholas, who has the Ravens selecting Deonte Banks at number 28. You might ask how the Ravens got to 28. They traded 22 to the Bengals for 28 and 60. Then at number 38, the Ravens get that pick from trading Chuck Clark in the 60th pick for 38 and 109. The Ravens take Tanner McKee, the Stanford quarterback, at 38. And Nicholas here says, I really think Tanner McKee is underrated. Then the Ravens take Sidney Brown, the Illinois safety, at 86. Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, the TCU corner, at 109. Michael Wilson, the Stanford wide receiver, at 125. Dwayne McBride, the UAB running back, at 162. And the Ravens get 162 by trading 159 for 162 and 218. Thomas Ingram, the Central Michigan edge rusher, at 200. And DJ Johnson, the Oregon edge, at 218. Tanner McKee would not be a popular pick, I think, among a lot of Ravens fans. I think that people would say, what? Who, why, what? But I don't know. I don't know enough about Tanner McKee to say, he's the next guy or he's not. I'd prefer a guy like Anthony Richardson, but I think 4 quarterbacks are going in the top 10, and McKee is a guy that you can probably get at the end of the first, in like the late day 1, early day 2, maybe even mid day 2 type deal. So that would be if the Ravens decide to not go and trade Lamar Jackson. There's not a Lamar Jackson trade here, so maybe they think McKee could be a guy who steps up or just be a backup for him here for the future there. So an interesting twist on things here from Nicholas. I respect the twist. Then we have Ravens Mox, who says a spicy scenario where Patrick Queen gets traded before the draft. All right, let's get into it. Lucas Van Ness, the Iowa edge, at 22. Marvin Mims, the Oklahoma wide receiver, at 86. Jonathan Mingo, Mississippi wide receiver, at 99. Now the Ravens get 99 as they trade Patrick Queen for 3 third-rounders. Well, Patrick Queen in a 5th-round pick, 159, for 3 third-rounders, 99, 101, and 102. At 101, the Ravens take Jacorian Bennett, the Maryland cornerback. 102, Julius Brents, the cornerback from Kansas State, had a great combine. Dorian Williams, Tulane linebacker, at 125. And then Keaton Mitchell at 150. The Ravens get 150 by trading 200, a 5th in 2024, and a 7th in 2024 for that pick. This is an interesting one. I mean, there's the double dip at wide receiver and corner. I mean, I like all these prospects as a whole, like encompassing everyone. The edge pick, I think, could be controversial for a lot of people. I think Van Ness is going to turn into a really good player. But I think for what the Ravens have done over these past couple of drafts, they've taken Odafe Owe in the 1st round at number 31 a couple years ago. David Ojabo was a 2nd-round pick. You're investing heavily in those selections or at that position with your selections over the first 3 years here for the Ravens, 2021, 2022, and now 2023. So I think that pick would be controversial in its own right. It's not my top choice, but again, I think Van Ness will turn into a very solid option. I think Marvin Mims, Jonathan Mingo is going to catapult up draft boards. I think the Queen trade 3 thirds. I think the Ravens would probably take that for sure. Julius Brents will probably get 2nd-round value here. I think Jacorian Bennett's probably a early mid 3rd-round guy at this point. So I think both pretty solid. I know PFF didn't agree with the grades here, but I think that's solid value. Keaton Mitchell's one of my favorite late-round running backs in this class. So overall, I'd say a very solid mock draft here from Ravens Mocks. And let's get into one more here. We'll end with a Lamar Jackson trade from Christian Conat Longakit, who has Baltimore trading Lamar to the Lions for, it's Lamar, a 4th-rounder in 2024 and a 3rd-rounder in 2025 for Penei Sewell, the 6th overall pick, the 18th overall pick, the 48th overall pick, the 55th overall pick, a round 1 in 2024 and a round 2 in 2024. Well, getting Penei Sewell in that would be something for the Ravens. I guess you could move him back to the right side and play him next to Ronnie Stanley. Anthony Richardson, the Florida quarterback is at number 6. Jackson Smith-Njigba, the Ohio State wide receiver, at 18. Deonte Banks, Maryland corner, at 22. Andre Carter II, Army edge, at 48. Tank Dell, Houston wide receiver, at 55. Garrett Williams, the Syracuse corner, at 86. Carl Brooks, Bowling Green edge, at 125. Michael Wilson, Stanford wideout, at 159. And Keaton Mitchell, East Carolina running back, at 200. So Richardson and Smith-Njigba seem to be a very popular pairing here. I mean, I like it as well if you're kind of resetting the offense. Deonte Banks, I think, can be a very solid number 2 option. I talked about him on yesterday's show. Andre Carter, I think, a very interesting player. He's probably a second-round guy, in my opinion. I know a lot of people maybe have him at the end of the first. I think 48 is around the value I'd take him at. Tank Dell, a very solid option. Michael Wilson also, I think, is a very, 5th round is great value for him. 3 wideouts, though. I'm probably only taking 2 this year from the Ravens. I've come around to the 2 wideout idea for Baltimore. 3, I think you probably need more veteran leadership there if you're keeping Bateman and you're keeping Devin Duvernay. I think you need 2 veterans to round out that room if you're taking 2 wide receivers, assuming Baltimore keeps 6 guys. So I like the prospects here. Garrett Williams at 86 is great value. Tank Dell at 55. I know people are torn on him because of his size, but I think he's going to be really good. Talked about Keaton Mitchell a little bit. I think this is a very solid overall draft here from Christian. So thank you again to all the people who submitted mock drafts here. Again, I'll be trying to get to as many as I can throughout the rest of the week, but that's all I have to hear today on Locked On Ravens. Be sure to check out, I'm going to do again a live stream today, probably again in that 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern range, maybe like around 5 or so. I'm also going to be on the Bleacher Report app at 11 a.m. Eastern time, breaking down the Ravens offseason. Super excited for that. I'll be on 105.7. I got a lot of appearances coming up and a lot of content here. As again, finally getting some Lamar Jackson substance. So be sure to stay tuned for our shows throughout the rest of the week. Be sure to follow along in audio form, subscribe in video form. Be sure to stay tuned for tomorrow's episode. And I'll see you right back here soon.